The spare key in the flower pot. My father taught me to hide a spare key under the flower pot by the door. "You'll thank me when you forget yourself," he said, meaning the keys, but he wasn't wrong about the other thing. The key stayed there for years, waiting. When my wife started coming home later, I didn't think about the key. I thought about traffic deadlines, the thousands of small storms that blow across a city without writing their names. Then one night, I heard the tink of terracotta at 1:12 a.m. and remembered the key had always been a story waiting for a genre. We live in a small rented house with a porch that leans like it's listening. On the porch are two pots, rosemary that refuses to die and a fat succulent that looks like hope. The key sleeps under the succulent in a sandwich bag. It has some dirt in its grooves because time is not very tidy. That night, I heard the pot move and walked to the door in my socks, slow like a man who doesn't want to meet the person he suspects is waiting. Through the peephole, I saw my wife with her back to the door, hair up in a messy knot, a coat that had never learned our shape of winter. She peeked over the railing toward the street like she expected company. Then a man's whisper, too close to her ear for friendship. I watched her take the key from under the pot, not the one in her purse, and my heart understood before my brain finished the sentence. The spare key was not mine anymore. I didn't open. I went to the kitchen and poured water and felt like I was learning the choreography of a world where you do the next sensible thing while your life leaves the room. They stayed on the porch longer than people do when keys work. The lock clicked. The hall light painted their shadows against the wall I had painted last spring the color of fresh linen. The shadows looked good against it. That hurt more than it should have. They whispered down the hallway. Then the bedroom door closed with a politeness I hated. I sat on the kitchen stool and thought about calling someone who could tell me the right order of steps. Instead, I listened to the fridge hum and the house breathe, and the little clock above the stove that sounded like it was trying not to be rude. It took them 47 minutes to finish forgetting me. I know because I counted twice, once with my pulse, and once with the microwave timer I accidentally bumped. When the front door closed again, I went to the porch and put the key back under the pot because habit has its own gravity. I slept on the couch and woke before dawn to the sound of my wife stepping over the place where our shoes used to tangle. She smelled like a hotel hallway, recycled air and somebody else's brand of soap. She said she had fallen asleep at a friend, the kind of sentence that should be humble but is. I made coffee like a man taking a lie out for a walk, so it could air itself out and get tired. All day I was slow and precise. I changed passwords, I photographed the key. I wrote a list that looked like a grocery run: lawyer, bank, spare key, flower pot. I went outside and looked at the succulent pretending it had nothing to hide. I laughed then, a brief sound that felt like cutting plastic away from something fragile. In the afternoon, while my wife texted, "Let's talk tonight," I moved the spare key to the top of the door frame where dust keeps secrets better. At 7 p.m. she came home with wine and a smile that belonged to a woman who wants to be forgiven before the story starts. We sat at our small table and she said she felt drained, a word I had only ever used for dish racks. She said a name, Oleg. She said it like she was apologizing to the air for pronouncing it. She said nothing had happened, but also that it had been happening for a while. I nodded because sometimes your face is the only part of you that can continue the conversation. I asked her if she liked our house. She said yes, and I believed her. We had chosen the curtains together by holding fabric up to the light. I asked if she liked the way the morning travels from the bedroom to the kitchen in a soft stripe. She smiled, thinking I was being poetic. I told her I had moved the spare key. Her smile caught on a nail. "Where?" she asked too quickly. Answering would have been cruel and useless. "Not under the pot," I said. "That's a place for memories, not access." She started to cry then, the silent kind, the kind that makes other people feel generous and you feel made of clay. I wanted to cry too, not because of the man, but because the spare key had always been a promise that the house would welcome us after we forgot ourselves. I didn't want to live in a place where forgetting was the point. The next days were paperwork and politeness. She moved to a friend. I bought a new lock, held the old one in my hand, heavy as a fruit you can't eat. I called my father and told him not about the man but about the key. He said, "I taught you to hide a spare. I should have taught you to ask why you'd need one." He is not a poet. That was the best sentence he ever gave me. One evening Oleg came by. He wore a jacket like a billboard and nerves like a scarf. He asked if we could talk. "We're already talking," I said, standing on the porch where the pots were witnesses. He said he had not meant to break anything. People always mean not to. He said he loved her. Maybe he does. Maybe love is brave when it shows up at a stranger's door. Maybe it's foolish. I told him the key was gone. He looked confused. "What key, exactly?" "I let the rosemary die that winter. Not out of vengeance. Out of realism. Some plants need attention. Some deserve it and don't get it. I took the succulent to my office where it watched me through 100 quiet afternoons. People asked why I had a houseplant on my desk, and I said I liked that it was hard to kill. Months later, moving day, the house looked like a body without clothes. There are scuff marks you don't see until the furniture decides to confess. I climbed the little ladder to dust the top of the door frame out of habit and found the new spare key exactly where I had left it. I held it in my palm, small as a regret, and locked the door from the inside. Then I walked out through the back and handed the key to the landlord. He asked if everything had been okay. I told him the truth. The house was fine. The people were different stories. I live now on the second floor of a building that smells like laundry and beginnings. There's no porch, just a corridor where neighbors say hello with a nod. I don't keep a spare key outside. I wear it on a loop around my wrist when I run, on a small ring in my pocket when I go to work. It feels like a new habit that fits the hand better. If you're still with me, thank you. Tell me your country and age in the comments. And if you have a spare key somewhere, may it open a door that leads you back to the person you meant to be with.